best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Happy Wednesday, America and Canada. Unless you're an Oilers fan, in which case it is not a happy Wednesday. We got a lot to do over the next 60 minutes. We'll be joined by our friend Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com in 10 minutes. He has made it to Indianapolis, barely. He'll be there for the big Game 6 of that NBA Finals series. Can the Pacers force a Game 7? We'll talk about that with him. Some other things going on around the NBA as well. We'll also be joined by our friend Bob Nightengale from USA Today. Does a great job on Major League Baseball. We'll get some thoughts with him on the Rafael Devers trade. He made his debut on Tuesday night. We'll talk about that. The Yankees struggles, whole bunch of things to get to around Major League Baseball. But we start things out in hockey, Sam. Look at what is that wry smile that has come across your face? Or do you love Wednesdays? Are you just happy? Like what's
great
that?
Day of the week. So that's a great conversation that you bring up, Jason. Is of the work week, obviously, we'll leave the weekend out of it. Is Wednesday the best of the 5 days? I'll hang up and listen.
Well, I was taught a lesson from my old friend who doesn't return my phone calls anymore, Colin Coward, who used to say Wednesday was his favorite day of the week because it was the day of the week in sports where there was so little going on usually that you could throw stuff up against the wall and just see what sticks. That was, and remember, that's when you're doing 3 hours solo every day. It's when I was a sports radio host, and he was like, don't dread Wednesdays. He was like, embrace it. That's what he used to tell me. So
it's a great take, and it's a great, I when I think of Wednesdays, right, and obviously it gives you time to have the conversation on what day is the best of the week. But I always think back to those classic Geico commercials with the camel in the office.
Hump day.
Mike. Yeah. What day is it, Mike? Hump day.
There you go. You're just dying to get that one out. The Panthers are Stanley Cup champions. Sam Reinhart, 4 goals in the victory for the Panthers. I didn't think it mattered who they started in net ultimate, whether it was Calvin Pickard or Stuart Skinner. It wasn't going to matter. The Panthers were well on their way in this thing. They got off early, and they wind up winning it by a final score of 5-1. Back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. They go to the ultimate series of the NHL season 3 times in a row. They win it twice in a row, Sam. And look, would you bet against them next season? I haven't seen the odds on next year. Would you bet against them next season right now? I know Vegas is, but I wouldn't.
I believe they're the co-favorites already with like Colorado. Maybe Dallas is up there, or maybe it's Edmonton. Regardless, I mean, so many ridiculous things to come away from this game with. I mean, beyond the last 3 for Florida, you've now had a Florida team in every Stanley Cup final since 2020. Yeah. You had the Lightning for 3, and now you have the Panthers for 3. I do think there's a conversation to be had there about Gary Bettman's whole
vindication
tax situation and how it truly is an advantage to play in Florida because you can pay better players less and therefore get better players on your depth. Listen to the Gary Bettman point I was just making. This is the 35th straight year or 30th straight year. Every year since Gary Bettman has been the commissioner of the National Hockey League, a team from the United States has won the Stanley Cup. I mean, obviously, that's still very questionable. To this thing about Canadians not being able to win this championship, I think that it's hilarious that an American team has won the Canadian Football League championship more recently than a Canadian team has won the Stanley Cup. That is objectively hilarious. Shout out to the Baltimore Stallions of the CFL back in the 1990s. I want to say like 98 was when they won the CFL Grey Cup. Jason, it's a tough time for hockey in Canada. We talked about it at the beginning of the playoffs, and, I guess Edmonton gave us a thought that there was a shot, but at the end of the day, it was a cute 4 games in this series, and then the last 2, it was like Florida woke up and realized that they needed to win the Stanley Cup this year.
Hey, remember when people were saying after 2 games, the greatest series in the history of sports? How'd that work out, by the way? Not too well. So, look, Florida winds up winning this thing in 6 games, 4 games to 2. And they are your Stanley Cup champions. And by the way, I've actually seen the old that old Baltimore team that you were talking about in the CFL. They played at Memorial Stadium. They played at the old Orioles Stadium. I actually remember. Yeah, they actually played at the old Orioles Stadium before they moved before the Orioles moved to Camden Yards. They used to play at Memorial Stadium. I think this brings up a greater question, though, Sam, in the final 2.5 minutes here that's worth discussing, and that is, are the Florida Panthers the best franchise in American professional sports right now? And I think it's a fair conversation to have. Now, the team on the screen might want to argue that point, and that being the Kansas City Chiefs, despite the fact that they didn't win the Super Bowl last year. Their run of greatness has obviously something that would have to be considered in that conversation. But when I say to you, Sam, best team in all of American professional sports right now, your answer is?
No, because as you stated, the Kansas City Chiefs dominance is unparalleled, right? When we look back at like the greatest sports dynasties of the 2000 to now, the last quarter century, it's basically, right, the Patriots, the Warriors, and the Chiefs. And that's pretty much it. Maybe throw the Heat in there, but they weren't sustained long enough. It's those three teams. The Chiefs' dominance is just, it's so hard to replicate in any other sport. And I think that has to do with multiple things, right? The parity of the NHL, right? And we talk about the parity of the NFL. There's way more parity in the NHL than there is in the NFL. What I will say the Panthers are the greatest potentially in North American sports is front office. I mean, this is one of the most underrated front offices in North American professional sports. Go look at the trades they made to go get Sam Reinhart. Go look at the contract that they gave Sam Bennett, or the trade they made with Calgary for Sam Bennett. You're talking about a guy who scored 4 goals in the clinching game for the Stanley Cup, and your Conn Smythe winner, and I think it was like Yuri Kulik, Devon Levi, and a couple of draft picks led to those two guys, two of the most key players on this run. Jason, their front office is incredible, and credit to that general manager.
Paul Maurice, first head coach to win 2 championships as a head coach after 25 years. Like, he didn't win anything for his first 25 years as a head coach, and now he has 2 championships after that. Like, you want to talk about prolonged agony and all the joy that comes with it now. Paul Maurice, former Hartford Whalers head coach, by the way. Hats off to him. I will still go with the Chiefs as well, but, man, it's hard to win Stanley Cups when you consider the gauntlet you have to run through. The Panthers would certainly have to be right there. We're coming back. Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of the show. Let's talk some NBA. We got some NBA Finals talk to get into. Our friend Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com, kind enough to hang out with us from Indianapolis. Game 6 on Thursday night. Well, Kurt, let's talk about this series and sort of where we are right now. And obviously the big story is Tyrese Haliburton and what will come of this calf strain that he has suffered. And aren't calf strains usually also sort of, the knee bones connected to the... Isn't it all connected? And one of the things they have to worry about with Tyrese Haliburton is potentially the impact on something like this when it comes to his Achilles, that this could wind up being something that impacts his Achilles. So they have to be really careful with this.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's really easy to think back only a handful of years to Kevin Durant pushing through a calf injury in the NBA Finals, and the Achilles. And it's funny, even I rewatched the broadcast after the game, and I'm like, yeah, Bob Myers seems to kind of get that in his head, like during the thing. Like, that would be the concern. If this is more than a super mild strain, they have to be a little bit cautious of that, and they have to be thinking about easing the load on him at a time they can't really ease the load on him. They're going to need a big game from him. The Thunder smell blood in the water and are coming to end this thing now. They do not want a Game 7 if they can help it, because Game 7s are random and weird. And so they're coming all out. They're going to have a better plan for Siakam. They're going to try all sorts of stuff. And I think you're going to see Alex Caruso do to Haliburton kind of what he did at the end of that game. It's going to look like somebody guarding peak James Harden where they were almost behind him and to the side, right? Like, you're going to get that. You're going to get this, like, man, we're just not going to let you go this way. We're going to make you push off that way and see if you can actually do it.
Kurt, who's the guy, if there's somebody that you could see stepping up in the absence of Haliburton, who is that guy that you could see in that spot? Is it Mathurin? You know, who could it wind up being? Well,
first off, it's got to start with Pascal Siakam. He's not only their second best player, but he's like the matchup nightmare. Like, as great as the Thunder are, nobody really matches up great with him except Jalen Williams. It puts a lot on him if he's going to carry offensive load. So it's got to start there, but then it's got to be somebody else. And this is where having a balanced team comes in handy. It can be Mathurin. Frankly, it can be Nembhard for a night. It can be TJ McConnell had a spurt. You're going to need a couple of guys probably to step up in spurts in this game and take on some of that. And you're going to have to get enough out of Haliburton that they can't ignore him, right? Like, he's got to be good enough when he's out there to not be ignored. And if you can do that at home where your role players are theoretically better, where guys are going to step up, maybe it's a Nesmith night, maybe it's whatever. Somebody's just got to come out red hot and take over this game for them as one of the role players. And like you said, like Mathurin did the other night, they need something like that.
Jalen Williams and what he gave, to this Thunder team in Game 5. Who saw that coming? Unless you've watched this team all year, a lot of people probably didn't. They will say this is sort of that arrival moment for Jalen Williams, Kurt Helin. But people who watch this team probably know this kind of talent was there.
No, I think that he's been a little under the radar because Shea's the MVP. And look, you're kind of drawn to Chet Holmgren visually at times and the stuff their bigs are doing. And you forget that this guy is their second best player. I mean, he was an all-star this year. Was an all-NBA player, is fantastic defensively. Like, he can do all these things. And I think basketball people were noticing that, but he hadn't really broken out on a national stage, on the casual fan stage until this moment when you're like, holy cow, he can do a little bit of everything. I saw people use the Pippen comparison, and I stylistically maybe but in terms of the perfect complementary guy for their lead, who can play on both ends, who brings it defensively, people forget how much Pippen brought the ball up on that team, right? And they ran him as a point forward, did a lot of that. That's a really good comparison for him because he does that kind of fill in every need situation. And the confidence is growing. You can feel it in him. He now gets this series, and he's going to be this good in game 6. Like, I expect him to bring it again.
To go back to the Haliburton point for a second, was he in a damned if he did, damned if he didn't scenario? When you talk about sort of the way he's been underestimated, the way he's been undervalued, Kurt, the way he's been sort of put down throughout even this postseason, with some people out there saying, he's still not a superstar. Well, he didn't do well, even though he won it for him in Game 1. He didn't play that well in Game 1. If he says, I'm not playing in the second half because of the calf strain, he's going to get knocked by those same people that are saying, it felt like he was in a damned if he did, damned if he didn't scenario. Am I wrong about that?
I don't think so. I think in terms of fan perception, yes. Look, he was really clear.
Not
after
just
the
fans,
game.
though. I think media, too.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think there was a lot of that. He was very clear after the game, like, man, it's the finals. I worked my whole life to be here. If I can walk, I'm going to be out there. And if this were the regular season, it would be a very different vibe. He'd be out for 7 to 10 days, and they make sure that this was okay because it's just the regular season. It's Game 6 of the NBA Finals. I can't see him not playing. But this might be a situation where, I mean, we all were thinking it during the game, like, how long are you leaving TJ McConnell out? Like, at some point, if he's not getting it done, and whether it's TJ or Mathurin or someone else off the bench is hot, if he's actively hurting you, you're going to have to protect him from himself and do what's best for your team. And I think Carlisle is both savvy enough to do that and has the relationships with this team to pull that off, where if he does that, this isn't going to be some long-term thing.
Yeah, I'll also say this, though, and, just having watched, him throughout these playoffs, especially against the Knicks. Oh, against the Knicks. And having watched him in this series, he still does a lot of things to help that team, even when he's not scoring.
Yeah.
So, I think you got to weigh sort of the pros and cons of that if you're Carlisle. I've got more to get into with Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. We're going to hold him. And we got to talk with our friend Bob Nightengale coming up here. Get to some baseball stuff. The Rafael Devers deal. We're going to hold Kurt Helin. He'll come back and join us here in just a few minutes, and we'll get some thoughts with him on a whole bunch of NBA stuff, including this Grizzlies Magic deal, what's going on with Kevin Durant as it relates to being traded, and the Knicks coaching search. Yes, we need an update on that. The team that fires their head coach after a trip to the Eastern Conference Finals and doesn't have a plan for who's going to replace him. We'll get into all of that with Kurt a little later on. Don't go anywhere. We welcome you back to this Wednesday edition of the show. Lots going on around Major League Baseball. Shohei Ohtani is pitching. The Yankees aren't hitting. Rafael Devers is a San Francisco Giant. Where do we begin with our friend Bob Nightengale, who does a terrific job with USA Today? Senior MLB writer there, hangs out with us on the show for a few minutes to talk about everything going on around Major League Baseball. All right, look, let's just call it what it is. And look, I've known you for a zillion years, so I think I could say this comfortably. You didn't think this deal with Devers was happening with him going to the Giants, or we didn't see it happening now. So what changed? In now that we've had 48 hours or whatever it is, 72 hours to sort of marinate in this and get the scoop, Bob. What happened? Did this thing just deteriorate so badly that a Red Sox team that's winning baseball games now and is above 500 decides we're going to part ways with our best player? What the hell happened?
I think it was just a case building from spring training. And then when he refused to move off third base for Bregman, and then he refused to go to first base, it's like, okay, we've had enough. And I just think they all had, again, the same page there as far as that. You guys ready to dump him or not? They said about a month ago, let's do it. And been working very quietly, saying, okay, we're gonna trade this guy. We think he's a bad influence in the clubhouse. If he doesn't want to be a team guy and play different positions, we don't want him. So I think just everything was cloaked in secrecy. Now the timing is awful, like you said, Jason. They swept the Yankees, won 8 out of 10 games, kind of half a game back in the wild card race. The timing stunk. It would have made more sense if they had kept losing there and got swept by the Yankees than do it now.
And then Devers goes to San Francisco and promptly says, hey, I'll play first base. I'll start taking ground balls there literally the first day. I mean, and look, the reports are out there that he was willing to play first base for the Red Sox. He just wanted to be somewhere permanently. He didn't want to start getting shifted around. What is there to that?
I think it was just a whole fractured relationship between him and the GM, Craig Breslow. I think that was all it. Say, hey, you said give me a DH. I didn't like the way you handled Bregman. You didn't keep me informed going on. So it's almost like, hey, I'm not going to do anything for this guy. So it's almost, in many ways, I think, does Breslow go or does Devers go? And obviously, Breslow's part of the front office and Devers went.
Well, is Breslow ultimately going to go here? Because there seems, to be this story or this narrative developing between Cora and Breslow and not necessarily being on the same page. Does winning cure all of that? Or does it seem like no matter what happens, there's this dysfunction in Boston, somebody's going to have to go?
Well, I think I do think winning cures everything. Obviously, a manager, particularly Cora, a very competitive guy, he wants to win right now. There's no way he could have been happy about the Devers trade, kind of, giving up on this season for a future. So, no, I think there is a little bit of disconnect there, but that happens a lot of cities where, the manager wants to win right now, could care less about the future, and the GM is trying to balance both.
You got to love this, though, if you're a Giants fan. You swung and missed on Aaron Judge, and now you essentially got, your Aaron Judge type player. Obviously, Devers is not as good as Judge, but he's pretty damn good. You got him in the prime of his career. You've got him locked in with this contract. I mean, if you're a Giants fan, you really can't have any complaints here with what Buster Posey has done. And what they gave up to get him is relatively little.
No, you're absolutely right, Jason. I mean, they took on, about $255 million here, and they're going for it. They're saying, you know what? It was even the owners said Greg Johnson's too good of a deal to pass up. So, and you're right. I mean, Harrison's a nice young pitcher. We'll see what he develops into. Hicks was a big disappointment. Never became the star like they thought. And then just two prospects. One was their first round pick of a year ago. But that being said, you do that in a heartbeat. A lot of baseball executives thought that package was very, very light. But of course, they are taking on $250 million.
What's going on with the Yankees here? They haven't scored in 29 innings. Is it just the typical June swoon that we see with the Yankees where everybody's calling for Aaron Boone's head? He's making managerial decisions people don't like. I mean, they're getting good starting pitching, and all of a sudden the bats have gone quiet here. What's going on?
Yeah, very strange. Texas Rangers have gone through that too. Great pitching and they not much hitting. But 29 straight innings, first time or tied a franchise record, 3 straight shutouts. I mean, when you're getting shut down by the Yankees, back-to-back nights, it's unbelievable. And I think just one of those funks. It looks bad. It looks like there's no energy when you get shut down like this. But it's very, very strange to see because that's too good of a lineup to be playing like this.
Yeah, it certainly is. Padres and Dodgers, always fun when these two teams get together, Bob, and we saw it again last night, tensions flaring up between these two teams. You got guys getting hit on both sides, stars getting hit on both sides, and that National League West, man, that's going to be the division to watch in baseball this year, isn't it?
Yeah, really good division, and particularly with the Giants, now it's a real three-hitter monster. Before, I thought Giants were playing on their head. Diamondbacks are a solid team, but the Giants, I think, have bolted ahead of them because of Devers. But yeah, this is, I think it's the best rivalry in baseball. It's the Planet Yankees-Red Sox, just because the open animosity. Hey, you hit our star player with Tatis, we're going to hit your star player in Ohtani. I think it's the first time Ohtani's ever been hit deliberately, if it was deliberate, since he's been in this country. Usually everything gets brushed back. So that's like, whoa, it's kind of stunning to see.
The Tampa Bay Rays, we don't talk a lot about them. But what they continue to do on a year in, year out basis here, Bob, I mean, it is remarkable that this team just continues to find ways to win games. They're in the midst of a great run right now. Sitting pretty there in the American League, certainly a wild card team. Is this something they can continue doing? And if they are a contender here at the deadline, will they actually make moves to enhance that team?
Yeah, it's fascinating. When I saw them in late April, I thought, okay, this is the season they finally go backwards. But yeah, I mean, they're the most stunning franchise in baseball, what they do year after year. Probably Milwaukee's that version of the National League. But for Tampa to do it in the AL East is unbelievable. So, yeah, I would think that, add on a little bit. The big thing will be, I didn't think they had to worry about it. Like, okay, these guys make the playoffs. Where are those games going to be? Probably Miami. But, you can't do it in a minor league ballpark at George M. Steinbrenner Field.
Well, you never know. I've seen bigger messes, by the way. Bob Nightengale, I always appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for coming on for a few minutes on this Wednesday. Let's do it again soon.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Jason.
Welcome back. Forgot we had Bob Nightengale in between our segments with Kurt Helin, who rejoins us after hanging out in the virtual green room. Pro basketball talk at NBCSports.com's Kurt Helin in Indianapolis. Game 6 of the NBA Finals.
Were you talking baseball?
I did. Bob Nightengale.
You talking baseball without me? See,
I did.
At least basketball is not a sport where some team would dramatically trade their star player and just piss off the entire fan base. Oh, no, I guess they do that in every sport.
And it's funny, and it's funny in the case of the Red Sox deal because a lot of people are saying the same thing. Like, they didn't really get a whole lot for Rafael Devers. and the Giants got back a hell of a player. A lot of people are sort of saying the same thing. But that brings me to my point, about this trade that happened. I mean, you're around all the national basketball media. What was the level of surprise on this Desmond Bane deal to Orlando, and how much they gave up as opposed to what the Mavericks got back for Luka Doncic, and sort of the way, the dynamics of this Magic deal and how it improves this Magic team? You add them with Suggs and Banchero and Wagner, and all of a sudden, that Magic team looks a little more formidable.
Looks a lot more formidable. This is a perfect hand in glove fit for the kind of player they needed. They desperately need more shooting. Here's a guy who does 8 threes a game and shoots about 40%. He's a very good and become a very good in the secondary shot creator on that team. Pick and rolls with him and Banchero are going to be impossible to stop. He defends. Like, this is a great fit. The reaction initially was, wow, they gave up how many firsts? But when you started to look at the firsts, there's the 16 in this one. There's a really good one in 2026 where it's going to be the Suns or the Wizards pick, where they're going to get something good out of that. Then those future Magic picks, I mean, they're far enough out that they might be worth something. But if this team is as good as we think it can be, and they're young still, those might not be very good picks. So they're not trading Ja Morant. They're not trading Jaren Jackson Jr. This is a retooling around those guys. They've got picks now and more financial flexibility, and they're going to go whatever direction they go. But this is not a tear down and rebuild as some people were expecting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you was, what does this say about the direction of the Memphis Grizzlies and sort of what they're doing here? The Kevin Durant situation in terms of where he may wind up. Houston has been brought in as a possibility. I've heard some people mention Minnesota, Miami. What seems to be the latest? And look, understanding that by the time this show airs around much of America, this story could change. What seems is there a consensus yet, or is this still too fresh in terms of and evolving a situation in terms of where Kevin Durant winds up?
I will tell you the only thing I think I know for sure: if this trade doesn't happen today, Wednesday, you won't see it until after the finals ends. That's about the only thing I feel good about. I will say this: what I keep hearing is that Durant wants San Antonio or Houston. Both of them are not offering much to get him. Like, it's Jabari Smith-Parker base deals for Houston. Dallas is not giving up anything it likes. The number 14 pick and some, maybe you can get Devin Vassell out of them. Devin Vassell would probably be the best player in that deal. They're not thrilled. They like what they can get from Minnesota, but Kevin Durant doesn't want to go there. So they're trying to talk Kevin Durant into Minnesota is what I've heard. But nobody really knows. And suddenly, like, the whole idea of, like, maybe he doesn't go anywhere, maybe this drags out a lot longer,
wow,
is on the table, because the offers, the Suns want something of quality back, and the places Kevin Durant wants to go can't offer much. I mean, you get Wiggins out of Miami where he'd be happy, but none of these offers are very good. And ultimately, the Suns are going to have to say, well, we'll trade him to Minnesota anyway. But is Minnesota willing to? I mean, if we can't get him on an extension, are they willing to go Toronto? I'm not sure that they are. I'm not sure they're willing to just take a swing for a year and hope he changes his mind.
Is there another dark horse that could swoop in here at the 11th hour?
There's a lot of teams kicking around, but I haven't heard another one with an offer that the Suns really like, because they want to retool instantly around Booker. They are not looking to tear it down. And that's why Minnesota, where they land somebody like a Rudy Gobert or more likely Julius Randle, you can instantly you're there, right? Like, instantly you're back to being at least good. So they want to do that. And they want to go there. This Durant doesn't want anything to do with Minnesota.
Last one. Anything going on in the Knicks coaching search?
They're dragging it out a little bit. They are interviewing this week with, as everybody knows, with Jenkins, the former Memphis coach. And I think they're dragging this out a little bit to see if things change in Dallas in particular. The buzz is that out in Chicago, the coach is about to get an extension, so off the table. We'll see if Kidd's different in Dallas. If maybe they have a different vibe down there, but so far that's all been shot down. And so you're back to the available coaches, and since there's nobody else searching for a coach, they don't feel a rush to do this because it's not like anybody's coming off the market.
I just cannot believe this franchise is in a position that they got rid of their head coach with no plan as to who they're. Unless you were hiring somebody the next day to replace him, I don't understand. I don't understand.
I don't know. I'm with you. I don't know how you do this. You don't fire a successful coach in any sport without an instant backup plan, or if not somebody like literally ready to go.
Kurt Helin in Indianapolis. Thank you, my friend.
Take care.
We've got more sports wrap on this Wednesday, including the WNBA and what is going on with it turning into the 80s and 90s version of the NBA. Sam and I will talk about it next. Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of the show. Coming up in 10 minutes, it's some odds and ends. Stephen A. Smith is floating the idea of running for president. I don't think he's going to win the Memphis vote. We'll get to that. Sam Yarnell, I made a joke. A few weeks ago, we had, I was doing the show. You were off. I did the show with Chuck Todd for the day. And Patrick McEnroe hung out with us for a couple of segments. And I made a joke, and the guys laughed when I said it, that, the WNBA is basically, prison yard basketball. It's like Orange is the New Black. And the guys laughed at it. I wasn't joking. The WNBA has decided it wants to be the NBA of the 80s and 90s, where, just anything goes. And I know that there are some people that are going to say that this is all geared towards Caitlin Clark, and this is all geared towards trying to attack her and knock her down a rung, which, by the way, isn't going to work. She got stronger in the offseason. She could take it. She could take the bumps. She could take the hits. But the WNBA is at this crossroads right now where it has to ask itself, is this the league we want to be? And if it is, fine, own it, and that's what you are. If you want to be the league of, women just kicking the crap out of each other every night, and you're going to be that more physical brand of basketball, and it gets people talking and it gets people tuning in, the same way some people watch hockey for the fights, and the same way some people watch NASCAR and are disappointed if there aren't 4 crashes in a race, have at it. But understand the risks that are involved if you choose to go this route and you are the WNBA, when you have your preeminent star getting beat up on a nightly basis, and you put your league in peril when you watch the ratings drop 55% when she's out for 2.5 weeks. If you're the WNBA here, Sam, you got to tread very lightly in how you decide to handle this situation. And look, if this is who you're going to be, then this is who you're going to be. And it feels like this is what they want to be.
Yeah. So, the WNBA obviously it's been awesome to see them grow over the last 2.5 years. I saw actually a podcast, and gosh, I'm not going to remember what former WNBA, it was a former WNBA All-Star who was on it, and I don't remember who it was. Was it Sue Bird? I don't remember.
Okay.
They were on a podcast talking about how this year has been so good for the NBA because now, even on social media,
the NBA
right?
Or WNBA?
WNBA,
okay.
Sorry.
Right.
Because now on social media, they're part of the jokes that we make about basketball, right? They're not the butt of the joke that we make about basketball. And that is huge. It's huge for the WNBA. It's huge for women's sports across the board because it means that you're becoming generally accepted in society. But I do think that it's fair that we make a lot of comparisons between the NBA and the WNBA, which is why I think that the WNBA has a problem that I could only compare to the NBA. The WNBA has way too many Draymond Green-like figures and not enough LeBron James-like figures. Now, when we talk about superstars in the NBA, they're countless, right? It seems like every week we've got another argument about why Tyrese Haliburton's a superstar and we haven't been giving him enough credit this year. That's another guy. Just add him to the list. Now in the WNBA, it's like a handful, right? You got Aja Wilson, you've got Stewie, you've got Ionescu, you've got Caitlin Clark.
Paige Beckers now, and I'll throw Nafisa Collier in there. So like 6. Now let's talk about the Draymond Green type figures in the WNBA, because there are a lot of them. Marina Mabrey last night, right? Angel Reese, we talk about it every other week. My point is this. In the NBA, there are like 3 guys that are like Draymond Green, right? It's Draymond himself, Dylan Brooks is the one I was thinking of.
And I'm sure I'm missing another one who's somewhere in a Western Conference middling team that just seems to irk everybody probably Isaiah Stewart.
Isaiah Stewart was who I was just going to say, yeah.
So we've got those 3 guys, right, compared to maybe 24 superstar-worthy candidates. Even if you call it a dozen, that's a lot different than 6 compared to 3.
Yeah.
So they just got to figure out that ratio a little better. That was my main takeaway from the whole dust-up last night in Indiana.
Well, I'll tell you another thing, and social media goes nuts on this stuff. And people are saying, well, Caitlin Clark should take her ball and she should go play somewhere else. She should start her own league, or she should go to Europe or something like that. Let me tell you something, folks. Shut up. It's not happening. It's not going to happen. Stop. The Dave Portnoys of the world and the Clay Travises, or she should go take her game to Europe. Yes, because Madison Avenue is going to care a lot about Caitlin Clark when she goes to decide to play basketball in Europe. Stop. It's not. It's not going to happen. This is not real. She's making her bones here in the U.S. That's where she's going to play. She's going to stay in the WNBA. She's not going somewhere else. She's going to make her zillions of dollars or whatever it is here in the WNBA. I just think the league has to be very careful going down this slippery slope of allowing the game to be this physical, because now you have assets. For many years, they didn't treat these players and they didn't treat this league as an asset. And maybe it was an asset then and they just didn't treat it like one. But now, when you've got all that media money coming in, you can't afford to have Caitlin Clark missing, 2 weeks because she gets banged up in a game, or they start resting her, doing rest nights like we see in the NBA. Can't afford to have it happen. They've got to figure it out, but it seems like they have. They're going to let it keep going this way. Last night, the perfect example. Odds and Ends is next. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Wednesday. Tomorrow on the show, maybe David Aardsma. He's traveling. We had him on last week. Hopefully we have him on the show on Thursday. His kids had a baseball tournament up in Cooperstown. Very cool. So David Aardsma hopefully on the show on Thursday, and all sorts of other good fun and frivolity. And we'll see if we are talking about a Oklahoma City Thunder NBA championship or a Game 7 back in Oklahoma City coming up this weekend. We'll see what happens there. Before we get to Odds and Ends, a couple of reminders for you. First of all, SportsWrap with Jason Page, the podcast. If you have not checked it out, it is this show in its audio form, commercial-free, Monday through Friday on all your favorite podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, anywhere you get a podcast. Whatever your preference is, whatever your platform of choice is, go and check it out. Subscribe today. It is free. Also, in addition to all the TV affiliates we're on across the U.S. and Canada, you can also watch this show on Spotify, in addition to our YouTube channel, the SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed yet, go and do so. In addition to the show being there commercial-free Monday through Friday, every early in the afternoon, it is the first place you can catch the show, actually. Little pro tip, the show is there usually before it's on any of our TV affiliates. So you can actually watch us there. Monday through Friday, SportsWrap with Jason Page on our YouTube channel with the same name. Commercial free. Also, SportsWrap shorts are there. Clips from the show, sometimes clips not from the show. Go and check it out. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell, they are not going to race. And I was kind of looking forward to this, especially as I walked through Times Square just last weekend. Noah Lyles and Tyreek Hill, they were supposed to race that much anticipated showdown between the two. And Noah Lyles says he's not going to race Tyreek Hill due to personal reasons. Was that personal reason he thought he might lose?
No, I think the personal reason may have been Tyreek Hill probably had another court date. Or maybe he was busy getting detained again.
Mic drop!
Yeah, Tyreek Hill, who allegedly, I don't know if you remember this, said, if you remember in a press conference this year after he got arrested outside the stadium, going into a game, said that he wants to be a policeman later in his career. Yeah, buddy, they don't let people with rap sheets like yours into the force. Anyway, yeah, I mean, Tyreek Hill, objectively bad human being. Better runner than he is a human being, though, Jason, which is why I wasn't excited to watch this, right? Noah Lyles is the guy who always runs his mouth about athletes that are more athletic than him. And Tyreek Hill is just an all-around bad human being. So I was not at all excited to watch this. I probably wasn't going to watch it. I'll just see the clips later on social media. I'm glad it got canceled. I'm actually sad that it was such a big story that it got canceled. And I'm even more sad that it was such a big story that it got canceled and people aren't more furious at these two.
Sam Yarnell, president of the Tyreek Hill fan club, ladies and gentlemen, send him your correspondences. Odds and ends. Stephen A. Smith has floated the idea of running for president. Something tells me he will not win the vote in Memphis, given some of his recent comments. If you have not seen it, Stephen A. basically just taking a dump verbally on the city of Memphis, to the point that the mayor of Memphis has invited Stephen A. Smith to come to the city of Memphis to show him it's not all that bad. This all stemming from Ja Morant. Well, first of all, it was Stephen A. Smith making some comments on First Take, then Ja Morant firing back with some comments of his own, not even naming Stephen A. Smith in the comments, but Stephen A. Smith taking it to mean him because Stephen A. Smith is thin-skinned. And then Stephen A. Smith responding to our buddy Ja Morant. So those two went back and forth at it. It's all over social media. You can go and look at it. But it's, it's another one of these things where Stephen A. Smith gets up and says, well, you don't want me spilling the beans on A, B, and C. And he does this all the time now. This is new. This is the new Stephen A. Smith thing that he loves to do. Whenever any player snipes back at him, like Stephen A. Smith could say whatever he wants, but if a player dares to actually fire back at Stephen A. Smith, his new thing is, well, do you really want me to tell people A, B, and C? I want one of these players to just be like, yeah, I do. Because I don't know if Stephen A. Smith actually has anything. I really think this is like the Emperor has no clothes, like this whole Stephen A. Smith thing. I think that's kind of where we are with it. It still hasn't gotten old for ESPN, though. They'll let him do whatever he wants.
Jason Page, the president of the Stephen A. Smith fan club and the leading candidate to be Stephen A. Smith's campaign manager in the upcoming election. Yeah, breaking news. My sources are telling me right here in my ear. Listen, it's an objectively hilarious beef between Ja Morant and Stephen A. Smith. My only takeaway as a young person who is very online, probably too online, Stephen A. Smith is very old and he's starting to let it show. And that's not good for a guy in his position who lives in a spot where young people are going to destroy you. You can't act your age if you're Stephen A. Smith, and he's starting to.
Oh, you don't want me spilling the beans, Ja Morant. Please spill the beans, Stephen A. Please. It's going to do it for us today. Thank you, Kurt Helin. Thank you to our friend Kurt Helin. Thank you to Bob Nightengale. Thanks to you, Sam Yarnell. See all of you back here tomorrow.